the name that kept coming up over and over again was Blitzy. And you folks have one of the best products in the market. When we called into customers, we heard over and over again the time to value was not instantaneous, but over a weekend. You could have millions of lines of code that basically get refactored over a weekend. And all of a sudden, you're replacing what would have taken engineers hours upon hours, if not hundreds of hours, in a couple of days. Shrinking development timelines from 6 to 9 months to weeks. Refactoring situations that might take a company a year or longer down to weeks.
Adam, thanks for having us at PSG HQ here in Boston. First of all, what an office. This is quite the operation, but we're here because we're partnering and we're really excited to have you guys joining us as investors, and really working across the portfolio at this point has been unbelievable to see the excitement from all the portfolio. But maybe we take a step back. You guys were looking at the space and identified a problem set, and then aggressively went to find a product that was solving this. So walk us through your journey of PSG from problem set identified to finding Blitzy in the market.
Yeah, totally. So first of all, welcome. Glad to have you guys. It's nice that you're around the corner. We can do this more often. Yeah, I mean, so it's really simple. At PSG, we're a growth equity fund. We do a lot of both AI and traditional software investing. One of the big issues that we found is you have all this legacy code at large corporations, mid-sized corporations, and frankly, even within our portfolio. And as autonomous code is taken off and we've recognized that there's lots of ways to fix this legacy code situation, we went looking both for our own portfolio, but also from an investment standpoint on what asset out there has a great product that brings a lot of value to their customers in a relatively short duration, that doesn't require a lot of hand-holding, isn't going to require spooling up a lot of services or some sort of implementation team. Because frankly, from our perspective on the portfolio side, we don't have those teams, we don't have those resources. So as we started digging in, the name that kept coming up over and over again was Blitzy. And you folks have one of the best products in the market. And from our perspective, thanks, Sid, when we called into customers, we heard over and over again the time to value was not instantaneous, but over a weekend. The ability to basically set parameters on a Friday and come back on a Monday and see the impact was just, frankly, something I'd never heard before. That you could have millions of lines of code that basically get refactored over a weekend, and all of a sudden, you're replacing what would have taken engineers hours upon hours, if not hundreds of hours, in a couple of days. And to do that, not only in the short duration, but do that with the same amount of people, they're not adding people, and do it in a way that doesn't require a lot of heavy lifting from the teams, was just, it blew our minds. It really blew our minds. And then as we got to know you folks and learn more about the team and the company and the product, we started introducing you into the portfolio. And that was just another great data point, right? We had companies that would come to us and say, look, we're trying to deal with this legacy code issue. In our business, we've had assets that do a lot of M&A. So they'll have platforms where you may have 5, 6, 7 companies that have come together. And they've really been struggling in some cases to really unify the code base and in some ways modernize the entire code base and modernize what they're doing. And as soon as we introduced them to Blitzy, they raised their hand and said, we need this now, we need to implement it immediately. And so hearing all that validation from customers that you're serving today to our portfolio, frankly, just supported the thesis that you folks were the company we wanted to back in the space.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And maybe Sid, I mean, you spent your career refactoring applications over and over and over the old-fashioned ways with the largest applications in the world, right? And so maybe you can speak to what you saw, right, when we were inventing the core technology back in 2023. It took a very long time to actually build the technology. There was no, this was not quick to build. So maybe talk about how your experience previously at NVIDIA has factored into the way that you thought through this platform.
Yes, at NVIDIA, I've been in this space for the better part of the last decade, right? And at NVIDIA, we were trying to find solutions to the problem, not just of, autonomous software, but in general, how do you apply AI to get meaningful materials, right? Like, for example, at NVIDIA, we tried to once translate between two UIs, just style transfer, and we had to use 14 different models to achieve a result, right? Today, you can do that with one prompt to ChatGPT, right? But it's not about that fundamentally, as it is about like watching the space and being able to predict what is the next bottleneck and what is the most valuable problem to solve. That's exactly what my team has been doing for the last 10 years, right? So for us, when we had the moment with GPT-3, right, and we saw that the most valuable problem to solve to affect the outcome that we want, especially since, like Brian said, I had been refactoring all these applications. We had made GeForce now the best cloud gaming service in the world, right? It was the context problem. That was the most valuable problem to solve, because if you solve that, then you can unleash the power of the model. It was very obvious that models are going to get better, and we've seen that, even with, let's say, Mythos or even with GPT, the latest ones, right? So that was very obvious. So that's exactly what we built. We built the system that can harness the power of the model and deliver value for the customer. We also thought quite different from how others think about it. Like, for example, token maxing or token churn. Everyone's big on like burning billions of tokens, but what does that even mean for the customer, right? So we thought about it from the standpoint of hours actually saved, lines of code written, lines of code accepted, right? So that flip in the mindset, seeing that early on, is basically what led to us being in an advantage position today.
And I do think, from our perspective, the core of what you folks are doing, I can use something like Blitzy to really replace all the work that was required to do the refactoring, to make sure that the code is modernized. Like all those things that were historically extremely time consuming, labor intensive, and in many cases inoperable, go away.
Yeah. And we see a lot of people tackling projects with Blitzy that they otherwise would have deemed impossible, right? And so as you think about from a fundamental, no one's saying 1.4 trillion is too small, to be
Right.
clear. It's one of
Right.
the biggest in the world. But if you think about what is the rate limiter to market size, it's actually the number of problems a customer can solve with software, right? So which just expands as you can deliver more software. So the market opportunity will continue to grow. It's so big today, you don't have to think about, is it big enough? But it's a really fun exercise to say, like, well, how big is that, right? When you can have a business problem, provide it to a system, and get an outcome in infinite state. It's really exciting.
And conceptually, if the teams are no longer tied to sort of legacy modernization, those teams can be repurposed for new code development, new product development. And really, what you're doing is you're driving so much efficiency within the organization on the legacy problems that it opens up efficiency on the bigger new problems. And that's, to your point, expands the market, expands the TAM, and enables your customers to move at a much faster clip than they've done historically, and enable them to deliver product much quicker than they ever could without Blitzy.
Yeah. And like half of our usage is this, call it refactor, modernization, tech debt, the category that is the fastest to identify easy problem sets for Blitzy. But we're excited about half of it today is what we call product development against these large scale code bases, right? And so that lets us not just affect bottom line, but affect top line, right? People are developing products and features in service of a business objective. So when you can touch a business objective tied to revenue, the opportunity is totally uncapped, right? So as much as we can get into these product development flows focused on revenue, top line enhancement, like that for us is what's incredibly exciting and fuels us. And the sales team loves talking about all those use cases to their customers because unlocking revenue is unlocking budget for the sales force. Let's talk a little bit more tactically on ROI. I think one of the things that folks like yourself, you guys are a nice blend of analytical, right, but still future looking, like their classical growth. Every Blitzy pull request comes with a report, and that report has the hours saved versus the hours remaining, right? And so this is time to production. So what we're typically seeing is 80 to 90% of the hours that the engineering team used to be putting into this from, just themselves and Claude Code is now being offloaded to a system. So 80 to 90% of those labor hours shrinking down. You have 10% remaining. Well, what can you do with that? You can then 10x the output of that firm if there are 10 extra problems. So as you think about the shift that these firms are going through, where they now have the ability to 10x the product output relative to what they could do a year ago, right? You sit on a bunch of boards. Like, what are you thinking about from what the company could sort of unleash from a return?
Yeah, I mean, frankly, that's why we're excited to implement it across the portfolio. Because from our perspective, some of the companies are trying to figure out, how do I spend dollars that I have on new product development, but also deal with the legacy issues. And the efficiency gains, the ability to take the existing resources and maximize that output in a way that's, to your point, driving top line while also, driving OpEx. It's a game changer. It's a game changer for our portfolio.
Gonna throw a curveball at you we
Yeah.
haven't talked about. So this requires great leadership at the end of the day. This is a different way of working.
Yep.
Right. And so like one of the things that like one of the reasons we chose to partner with you is you're a great coach, right? You can work directly with the CEO, you can point him in the right direction, you can advise. But like how do you help the PSG portfolio companies where you have a similar relationship where they need to have the leadership capacity to culturally change the way the organization is working to actually amplify the gains that they're getting in AI.
PSG, we've got 50 people on our operations team. They work on finance, which is largely helping teams budget and accounting and forecasting. We have a human capital team, which does coaching, but also recruiting. We have a go-to-market team that will work on ICP and frankly, scaling the go-to-market team. And then we have a technology team, which you guys have met Peter Troost and your love affair with Peter, our CTO. And so our goal is to help you see around corners, right? We have well over 100 portfolio companies. We've all been doing this a long time. Our goal is to short circuit things that may, slow you down and really help you make better decisions because of the pattern recognition that we have. And, from a from my perspective, I want to work with you guys just to say, look, this is what I would think about in the situation. I want you to leverage our ops team and frankly, scale the go-to-market team as quickly as you can, help you think about, training the team that you have. And, we have a team that can help you do that. And that's not an easy thing to do. You bring in different people from different backgrounds. And from our perspective, we are a growth investor. You guys are a growth company. We are here to support you in your growth and help you be as successful as you can without making some of the typical mistakes a growth company makes. We are here purely to support you. You guys are the founders. We love backing founder-led companies. Frankly, you two are what initially energized us outside of the work on the customers and our portfolio. We're backing you guys and what you're capable of doing, and we think you guys have an unlimited ceiling.
We're playing on fast mode, as we always like to say, just given the market pull for what Sid has invented in a lot of the core technology, things are moving at a faster clip than was even feasible, right? A couple of years, 2 or 3 years ago,
Yep.
companies just didn't grow at this clip. So what's very attractive to us is the ability to know, like, it used to be like, this is what year 3, 4, 5 looks like. And that's quarter 3, 4, 5 for us as a software
We're
firm.
compressing everything in a much
Everything is
shorter
compressed.
duration.
Yeah. So the rate that we need to bring on an executive team, the rate that we need to up level as a firm, like it is just faster than otherwise, and the ability to double and triple down. And so that's been super exciting for us. And it helps that you guys are in Boston for us, right? So we think about scaling the team, here in Boston, your guys' recruiting team, your guys' ops team, your guys' platform team, just by sheer network, is tied into the right people that can help build the firm.
It's great that we have the Boston partnership, but what really resonated us was the culture that you two want to build and the quality of people that you want to recruit and the focus on doing the right thing for your customers and your employees. That really resonated with us. Even in the first meeting, it was something that you guys focused on. It was important to you. You can tell by the investors you picked that that was really important to you. You weren't trying to optimize for price or optimize for this or that. You were trying to optimize for cultural fit. And from our perspective, that's going to maximize the partnership and maximize shareholder value.
Yeah. Yeah. We look at this as our life's work, right? And so I think when you are optimizing for an 18-month flip, right? Like you just don't make the same decisions as you do when you're saying, great, like we want to build a generational company, which means like you want to actually pick people that you
Yep.
can work closely with over a long time horizon,
Yep.
right? And so you can speak to this as well, but like the intensity and the deliberateness I think that we put into the people that we bring onto the mission has been intense, and we've just been really aligned with that from day one.
Yeah, it's not DNA. You can see we've been very efficient for a very small amount of capital, and we've been from the day one going against giants, right? And the only way you can do that if you have real passion, if you have real understanding of the problems that you're trying to solve, and above all, like you're really in it to win it, right? So, and you have to, like Brian said, there's no MVP of this product, so you have to make very deliberate decisions. You have to think long term, and you have to hold your ground and stand against your decisions. And we've proven time and again that we made the right choices, and we continue to have conviction that we're headed on the path to a really great outcome for Blitzy.
Yeah, it was non obvious along the path. There's every single turn. Um, people told us this was not possible, right? It was extreme tech risk that we undertook, right? It was never market risk. So I had the easier job as the go-to-market guy, but it was always extreme tech risk that we were undertaking. And it took a lot of work from really deep technologists to make this possible, right? But now, right, we're in the game, we're scaling fast, and go-to-market execution, right? Obviously, your guys' work is never going to end. You guys are going to continue to push the frontier. We have an unbelievably exciting product roadmap here to deliver net new value to the customer, but scaling go-to-market exceptionally and taking advantage of the position that we're in is now the game to go win for us.
The hardest thing initially is establishing product market fit.
Yeah.
You folks have clearly established product market fit. Now it's capitalizing on that product market fit, and that's what we're here to help you do. From our perspective, one of the most exciting things about this partnership is the impact you folks can have on our over 150 portfolio companies. There's so much value that your product can bring to these companies in terms of time savings, cost savings, and then future growth with new product development.
Yeah, I mean, we're delighted for the Blitzy PSG partnership, both for you guys having investors, mentors of ours, and our ability to support the portfolio. So we're really excited. It's going to be great. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.